Hello, everybody. Wonderful. Today, the streaming spirits and gods have been very friendly to us. Maybe because we have a little loose approach to the Fiedler Audio Livestream today. Welcome, Mr. Thomas Fiedler. How are you?
Thank you. Very good.
Wonderful. So, it looks like the chat is working. They're the first guest. Zino Naval Peregrino, Andreas Franke, Moin. Hello, everybody. Wonderful. This seems to go well. If the sound is okay, please let us know as usual. Because, best we got from Art Cafe Records, Timo Beats. Wonderful. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So let's just dive in as everything seems to work properly. Q&A session, all things Dolby Atmos today. And we thought we might start with some questions to the audience.
The other way around.
The other way around. We would like to know some things from you guys before we dive into what you might have as burning questions towards Mr. Thomas Fiedler, the Fiedler audio tools, and or the things that come with Dolby Atmos and the formats, the creation, the workflow concepts and stuff like that. So, well, the first question I was wondering about is, so you guys, if you're listening to Dolby Atmos, it would be cool to get to know from you guys if you do this as consumers on stereos, no, not on stereo, on consumer Dolby Atmos systems, whatever there is, because there are many different flavors out there. And then the second thing is when you're mixing and creating what the setup is that you're using in the studio, or if that might be identical. That's something that's really interesting. And right now, before we get into the details, shout out to Mr. Eric Horstmann from Immersive Labs and the good people from the Genelec showroom, because the picture we used for the announcement of the stream today are from the Genelec showroom in Berlin. Very, very nice room with an amazing 7.1.4 Dolby Atmos setup, and I had the honor to be able to listen to some things there, and it's pretty amazing. So, yeah, let's have a look. Quite some guests here. Hello, everybody who comes in. Fine, I think the audio seems to be fine. Yeah, so if you have something to say regarding your setups, that would be very interesting. But let's start with Thomas. Creating for Dolby Atmos immersive audio and listening to Dolby Atmos, is that for you the same setup, or do you go to your living room and the family is gathering in front of a screen and you all enjoy Dolby Atmos in full bloom, or is it a little bit different?
Well, I think Dolby Atmos has not yet come so far that my family is enjoying it. So because I mean there are two ways to enjoy Dolby Atmos when it comes to music. One is with headphones and one is with speakers, if it comes to any kind of home setup. And my family doesn't have home setups with speakers, so some may listen, if they use Apple Music, they might listen to it on headphones. Maybe knowing, maybe not knowing, because also getting people to care about this is another thing. Yeah, I mean, I myself, I sometimes listen on speakers when I have the opportunity, and sometimes on headphones. But actually, to be honest, most of the time I'm creating the tools, so I'm not that much into long listening sessions.
Aha, okay. Pretty interesting. And yeah, now looking at your answers here, there is listening on headphones and now on speakers, mixing on headphones, checking on a home cinema system with 5.1.4. Then not as a consumer, that's Juan Para Cancino, is only producing and not listening. No, I'm joking. And a hybrid format setup, 16 channels, wonderful. And listening on headphones and also on Yamaha HS8 speakers. So would this be a Dolby Atmos system consisting of HS8 speakers or just on stereo for checking the sound? And there's Dolby Atmos Composer user on Ableton Live. And it's listening with the Virtuoso plugin. Okay. And
well, he
and
actually
then
has a question, but we come in a minute to the questions.
yeah. And then Apple AirPods on the go while creating and mixing on headphones and checking on 7.1.4. Aha. Yes, I did suggest the PreSonus monitors. I come to that later if you allow us. And well, some VSTs, I think we can talk about that later as well. I take a note. So, yeah. So most of you guys would be listening to your studio setup and on headphones. If there's someone with something like a Sonos system, like soundbar stereo edition plus some speakers in the back, we would be interested in this as well, and how would you handle that? And I suggest everybody then is creating MP4s and taking it to your listening environments, if it's not the studio system. May I be correct there? And there's something about Eclipse. I will take this as well as a note. And okay, so what's your guess out there if you're creating Dolby Atmos immersive audio, music and content? Do you think of the user listening on headphones and most probably with Apple EarPods on Apple Music? Do you have other platforms in mind, or do you have also even Blu-ray and stuff like that as a focus when you're sitting there and doing your mixing? That would be also interesting, because it would be good to know what your main focus is, I guess. So okay, that seems to be now all answered, I guess. So, and then mixing, the setup, I think we can read this out of the answers here as well. It's headphones and dedicated system between 5.1.4 and this gentleman who has 16 channels available. That's pretty cool. Then there's another thing that I learned after speaking to mixing engineers who are on the job all the time about their typical daily work. And I found out that the majority is getting stems, and usually is also the request to get as close to the stereo version as possible, and aren't even allowed to add some creative stuff to it. Can you answer that, how it is for you? Or if you would start Dolby Atmos immersive audio projects from scratch, meaning starting to put together the music and already having your Atmos in mind, and while the music is starting to happen, you already put these things into speakers and think about the immersive experience afterwards? Or is it mostly stuff from existing content that you bring over to Dolby Atmos? That would be also pretty interesting. So, I think the most used Spotify with Apple EarPods, well, or Marshall headphones. Well, yeah, Spotify, of course, there's no Dolby Atmos on Spotify. Some people have tried to put up some binaural files, which show up then as regular stereo files on Spotify as well, with a little note that this might be a 3D audio headphone mix. I don't know how many people do that. So for Dolby Atmos, it would be Apple and it would be Tidal. And what else do we have?
Amazon.
Thomas, Amazon, right, as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here is Blu-ray and Apple Music. I guess I see. Well, Blu-ray then, Blu-ray is always 48K, or does Blu-ray even allow for 96K, Thomas? Do you know that?
I'm not sure. I know that True HD is the codec called to which you encode the ADM file. So it's not the DD plus JOC which is streamed, but it's a better codec, so to say, a higher quality, which goes onto the Blu-ray. But apart from that, I'm not sure if you can encode 96 kilohertz. Maybe someone who's working it, maybe Juan Parra can answer that, if he has done 96 kilohertz on the Blu-ray. So that would be interesting to know. I know that streaming currently is only 48K. So since you can do Dolby Atmos in 96, I guess you can do it on Blu-ray, but I'm not entirely sure. It should be possible because, I mean, Blu-ray has enough playback capacity and so forth.
But I mean, it would be quite some data transmitting job.
Blu-rays are big.
Yeah, they are big, so they can hold a lot of data. But to play it back then, I was wondering if the drives are so fast that that this would work. But well, we will find out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for production, I usually make versions of a piece where originally multi-channel, quad or 8 channels. Aha, okay. It's also
only 48K in Blu-ray as streaming. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, understood.
48. Okay, thank you for that. I didn't know that. I wasn't really sure. Yeah, that should be a little bit more. That should be easier to handle for disc players. Definitely. Yeah. So the STEM situation and the creative situation, that's something that's also interesting. So Thomas, while you talk to some beta testers and feedback from the users, do you have an idea how the situation there is, and if these people are more creating original stuff with Dolby Atmos in mind already, or is the reality that the majority is working with stems? I mean, that's just a small piece of the cake, but it's first-hand information you might have there.
Yeah, I mean, I have information, let's say, from both sides, but nothing statistically relevant in terms of how many are doing this and how many are doing that. I know that there are lots of people who strive to make a real Dolby Atmos mix, meaning doing from scratch, making a concept for what goes where, and really doing creative stuff. But I also know that there are a lot of people who are basically just spread out the stems. They get a bunch of stereo stems, they spread it out across the speakers, and then they hit export, and that's it. Which is very sad, actually, but there are many sad things in the music industry, if you will, which doesn't they actually support the artist and the art, but is only there to make as much money as possible without really caring about the content. And this is just another symptom of that. So Dolby Atmos or any other 3D audio format gives you so much creative freedom, and music can only benefit from that if you do it right. So, yeah. But I know that also many labels, especially major labels, they don't put any additional money into the Dolby Atmos version of the mix. So they basically do the stereo mix as they are used to, and then they go to someone, hey, make an Atmos version of the stereo mix, and basically he's only allowed to spread out the stems, and that's it. So that's the current situation, especially when it comes to major labels. So our only hope are those who are creative and actually bring forward the topic. Of course, there are exceptions, and there are other ways of doing things if there's a real effort behind it. Like, for example, with our good friend Hans-Martin Buff, who got the Grammy for the immersive album, or the immersive version of Peter Gabriel's latest album, I.O. And there he did a real Atmos mix. That wasn't just spreading out some stems. It was a real dedicated Dolby Atmos mix. And so this is something where actually Atmos should go. You should go to the place where you can actually live 3D audio, immersive audio, where you can actually do what 3D audio is supposed to do, which is taking or providing the best listening experience possible by using all the different perception qualities or perception capabilities of the ear. I mean, we hear, as I can only repeat myself, we hear 3D all the time in real life. We are 3D listeners all the time. So, and the 3D audio formats do have the capacity to actually make use of that and to give us the best musical experience possible. And we can only hope that, well, things will develop over time, that 3D audio actually matures, because currently it's in a very immature state and only few people get noticed doing creative Atmos stuff.
Yeah, that's weirdly enough still the case. I mean, I think we're in 2025 now, and I think it's 3 years ago that Apple introduced spatial audio, I guess.
Something like that, yeah.
Or even 3.5. I think it was end of 21 or early 2022. And well, it's force-fed into the AirPods. Users, owners, sometimes they don't even feel the difference. And yeah, the producers now, the content owners asking the producers to do the Atmos mixes, well, most probably to get the additional 10% in revenues, asking them to make it so close to the stereo that they don't maybe don't realize that there's a difference, which would be really, really sad as well. And yeah, the public experience of music in Dolby Atmos is something that I've been thinking about very often, because if there would be more possibilities to listen to Dolby Atmos together with many people, it would be a completely different experience. And I always realize that at trade shows or these special events and workshops where there are proper Dolby Atmos systems, and there are, I don't know, 15, 20 people in one room and listen to great mixes, everybody's really, really awed by that, and to take this with you and then wanting to create something similar is this is a big emotional push and a motivation as well. But then, well, if someone would take the length and come up with a Dolby Atmos mix, it's the headphone either, and you need to make sure that people realize that your music is available in Dolby Atmos for headphones, or when you want to play it to a bunch of people at the same time, which is always, yeah, the good thing, because this communal experience of music usually adds a lot of stuff to the musical experience. There are not so many places where you can do that. I'm wondering, there are not yet some, I don't know, some listening clubs or so. There have been all these hi-fi bars in some of the bigger cities for quite some time, and but I haven't seen a Dolby Atmos bar yet, and maybe that's a gap for a smart business idea, and maybe we should, as we speak about this, talk to some of the gentlemen from Dolby. Hello, you know who you are. That something like this should be a little bit supported, or the suggestion should be brought to the community to maybe do something like this. It's so sad that it's only trade shows and stuff like that. I mean, the car is coming.
Yeah.
A lot of car manufacturers are putting Dolby Atmos in, and I know that the Dolby Atmos team is doing a lot of lobby work to encourage this, and it's still then just a very, well, so far as I remember, the brands of cars who put in Dolby Atmos systems, either always or as an option, reach tendency. There's a tendency that it's only pretty elite customer groups that might be able to have an experience like this, because
And it's only the new cars. It's only the new cars.
Yeah, it's really, really expensive, I'm
And
afraid.
yeah, and it's only the new cars. So you would have to buy a new car, a new model, to get actually Dolby Atmos. So it's a very small percentage of listeners who can actually enjoy it in a car. Yet, of course, as years go by, that will be increasing. But currently the situation is like this, and well, headphones is the biggest thing at the moment, and it will be staying this way for years. So of course we have to care about the headphone experience, but still on headphones, if I listen to a mix which is really done spreading out a few stereo stems, usually these mixes, they lack impact compared to the stereo version, because all the stereo stems are optimized and equalized and compressed and duct and like molded together in a way that they perfectly fit into the stereo image. But as soon as you spread them out and give them more space, they become actually thin. They are not really filling the space, so mixes just fall apart. I have heard it countless times. Even people being proud of their Atmos mix, and then I listen to the Atmos mix on headphones and compare it with the stereo version, and I say, well, musically it falls apart. Some instruments are way lower than they should be, and if you have for example, a jazz composition where actually usually instruments talk to each other, where there's some play between the instruments, some meaningful play, this stops working, because they don't have they are not positioned in a way that you can actually feel that there's some communication between the musicians, but it's just some cloud of sound, but not really not really meaningful for the music. So if you really want to bring forward the Atmos or the 3D audio experience for that sake, you have to dedicatedly mix for that, and you cannot just spread out stems. Spreading out stems is actually harmful for the acceptance of this format. I must say.
Harmful, that's a strong word, but
Yeah, but that's my experience until now.
yeah, I realized it when I brought in my little poor man's Dolby Atmos speaker setup here, and I was listening to some stuff, and I realized as well, when you have a stereo project and you just take it as it is, the stems, for example, and then spread them around, because of what you said, to fit everything into the stereo system, you have to carve out from every instrument some frequencies, and yeah, if you listen to them in mono, then it starts to sound thin, and if you then spread it out, it loses a lot. When you start mixing, I realized that when you start mixing stuff on the speakers, and you have the full body of, you know, electric guitars and voices and stuff like that, and then you put them together into a stereo mix, then you would have to then you have a hard time to you know, carve them again back into the format that they would fit to the stereo stuff, and that's really an issue. And I even had this that's a couple of days ago, one quote from Mr. Andrew Sheps about mixing, and he was asked if because he's doing a lot of buzzing stuff and parallel processing and stuff like that, and he was asked if he's listening to individual instruments, you know, soloing them, and he said how an instrument sounds on its own, or how a signal sounds on its own, is absolutely not relevant whatsoever, because they are always a part of a bigger thing. And when you want to have this impact of a thing with a stereo mix, it always has to be a part of a bigger thing with processing and grouping and, you know, compressing and EQing groups and stuff like that. So that basically says it. And the immersive audio would make it possible that you don't have to do that. But yeah, then you would have to do the work twice. And I haven't, I must admit, tried out starting Atmos first and trying to master then the stereo mix, the direct stereo, for example, to see if I can get to a place where this could compete with, you know, a dedicated stereo mix yet. But maybe some of you guys have some experience about that.
Yeah, you can share it in the comments if you have some Atmos first workflow experience. But that's actually the way. That's actually the point where music production should get to, that you think of Atmos being the full mix and stereo being kind of the secondary thing to feed the stereo world. Because if you look today, most music is consumed on headphones, so you can easily go with the Atmos version by listening to the binaural render of the Atmos version. So that's already covered. And then stereo systems, yeah, of course there are stereo systems, and I'm sure you can get somewhere with that also. It would also be interesting to compare the binaural version or the Dolby Atmos binaural algorithm version of a Dolby Atmos mix on speakers compared to the, let's say, stereo direct version, to see if that works all right or not. Yeah, leave something in the comment and maybe we can head over to the questions.
Yeah, and here's just to pick up on some of the things, because I think this is a really healthy attitude and activities where interactive audio, they're about to set up a public Atmos room and bistro. Nice. Where you can even play live and experience the sound. Well,
cool stuff.
Thomas and I have been discussing this live thing already, how cool it would be and how basically easy it would be as well. But maybe more about this later. And then There are also listening sessions in 8-channel. Juan is doing that. He's organizing that. And Atmos in the car, police sirens in automated, right? That would be fun. And now AI is asking, what would be the biggest issue with the translation from loudspeakers to headphones and vice versa? Room influence, listener position, or movement, or something else? Thomas, what would you say?
That's a question for an entire podcast, actually, because there are so many. It depends on the music. It depends on the recording. It depends on your mixing concept, and well, technically, when you mix in Dolby Atmos, you need to try to fit both to make a. It's always a compromise because in an ideal world, you mix on one thing and it is perfect on the other. So, like you mix on headphones and it's perfect on speakers and vice versa. But the world is not working like this because basically the physics of both are different. So, when you mix on speakers, these speakers are really positioned sound sources in a space. Whenever you move your head, these things move in relation to your head. You have a room response, a reverb kind, and you have the physical impact of the sound. This is the speaker situation. On headphones, you don't have the physical impact, but on the other hand, you are always in the sweet spot, no matter what you do. And you are always it's like the position of the objects don't change in relation to your head when you move your head. This can be good and this can be bad. It's good somehow for a musical experience because if you listen to music without a visual cue, if you are focused, if you listen to it, but you have your eyes open and look for somewhere else, then the visual cues from what you do are different to what you listen to on with the music. So a kind of head tracking might disturb in such a way. Even and worse if you go around outside with your earpods. And but on the other hand, if you have a visual cue, like when you watch a movie or when you're actually sitting with your eyes closed and make a dedicated listening session on headphones, then head tracking might be a topic because then you move your head and you you're moving yourself in a like more like in a real space. So those are the different aspects. Also, I think there can also be an issue with the amount of reverb you put onto things. When you listen on speakers, you tend to put less reverb than when you mix on speakers, on headphones. Because on the headphones, everything is absolutely dry. You have no room, no additional room. Which is why Dolby and also Apple, they added some small room response to their binauralization. So that is not entirely and completely dry. And while on speakers, you have the natural room response. So you need to find a middle ground between how much reverb you use. We also have a couple of podcasts ago, we talked about the possibility to manage this kind of binaural experience to get it more similar on both Apple Music and Amazon and Tidal, where they use the Dolby rendering algorithms. That might be interesting for you to look up. That is basically using Spacelab as a reverb to add something on top of the sources, so that they get a better perspective in space. And also another tip is to, when you have objects and you place them somewhere in space, and they are not moving, they are supposed to be static. You just place them by panning them around. It's good to keep them a little bit moving, just slightly. When they move a little bit, then and they have reverb, especially when they have reverb on them, and the reverb stays constant, but the source or the object is moving slightly, not so much that you really notice that there's a movement, but just slightly. the perception of direction becomes better, because the brain constantly calculates the dry sound of the object in relation to the reverb. And when the dry sound, even if it doesn't change the difference between loudness between the both ears and the times, but if it's even a little bit of the sound which changes because of the direction, that is enough to make to give the brain a hint to where it is coming from. So your, let's say, your spatial resolution becomes better under headphones, and it is absolutely no problem on speakers. So that's a tip to get a better sounding headphone experience, which is perfectly compatible with speakers. But apart from that, well, as I said, it depends on the material, it depends on the music, it depends on your mixing style. You have to listen to both. You cannot rely just on one. Of course, you can do a lot of things on headphones, and when you have a lot of experience, of course, you can say, I can do a mix completely on headphones, and I know it will translate somehow good on speakers. But, well, that requires a lot of experience, and you need to have done both so that you have an idea how it translates on both systems.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And there's also the road to, from, and I will get into this in a second. I just wanted to take the moment for Toby Forsman. He's mixing 9 tracks for an album release. Atmos mixes first, and he will use the stereo pull down from Fiedler to release in non-immersive channel formats. And that would be interesting to hear how that goes, and what additional work would be required to bring the stereo mixes on par, or maybe even not at all. That would be really, really interesting. And well, it might be especially interesting in the hopefully near future with some new options you might get, which become possible. More about this maybe after the summer. Yeah, and I found it pretty interesting, coming back a little bit to this live situation as well, that when I started to do, after 2 years, the first effort to add some speakers to this room, because I never wanted to do that because of all the cabling and chaos and different audio interface and more channels and stuff like that. I started with what I had. I had a. I show you 1 second. So I realized that I had this nice audio interface. It's by Audient. It's called Evo 8, and it has 4 outputs. 4. And I had these small PreSonus speakers, Iris 3.5, which sounded amazingly good, very full, and an amazing amount of low end for a very, very budget price, just for switching to near field situations, and while recording, quickly being able to listen. And I thought, okay, I have 4 speakers because I have Adam monitors, very nice ones. Shout out to Adams. Thanks for making it possible to check them out. So I thought, I have 4 speakers, to cut a long story short, and I tried to do something with these 4 speakers, and I just hooked it up to the laptop and was listening to what I had done on headphones, and immediately I was really amazed how big a difference these 4 speakers made, and how nicely the Dolby Atmos composer, how would you call it, because that's the thing with the object-based stuff, applied the 9.1.6 mixes to these 4 speakers. Thomas, please stop me if I'm telling anything that's stupid. And That's when I realized, okay, that's not so difficult to do for some live stuff. And most of the mixers you have these days, they have, I don't know, 4 or 6 output possibilities as well. And that might be really interesting, especially when you work also with some backing tracks. And we came up with this idea, and maybe someday we will be able to do this, because it requires, of course, some stuff, some wooden boxes, and a room to try this out. But a live band or an interesting artist, maybe with electronics and live performance, in a Dolby Atmos or immersive music setting in a small club would be really, really interesting. And you can even start with 4 speakers, I realized. If you have your stereo stuff plus 2 active speakers somewhere back in the room, makes an amazing difference. And if you have some little bit of space lab on your backing tracks as well, it makes a lot of difference. And but it works also with the stock plugin stereo reverbs, if you put them in the back, and even to create a phantom mid when you're mixing between the front and the rear speakers, does really work. And I also realized that with all the measuring stuff and the nitty-gritty Dolby Atmos recommendations of how to put your speakers and where to put your speakers, they definitely make sense. But if you have lesser speaker systems in a more difficult room, it really works regardless. It might not be perfect in terms of some phasing things, but they might even make the things even more interesting. And if you have an immersive experience for an audience in a small club, we thought that might be a big game changer as well, because you add a certain quality and a certain extra experience to what you're doing as a live artist as well. And that might help a little bit to get the smaller artist live scene a little bit growing. And I'm sure people will talk about it when it's promoted well. So what do you think? Are you guys involved in a little bit of live performance as well, your clients or even yourself? Or are you strictly on the producing and recording and mixing side of things? That would be interesting. So Thomas, what would you say if you would think of a setup for a live performance? What would you think would be feasible? To do 4 speakers, 6 speakers? Of course, you wouldn't be able to use tops if it's not an installed system. Something you would like to, you would have to take around with you. What would make the most sense? What would you say? And I will have a look at the chat
Questions, yeah. Oh man, this is this is another question for another podcast. What makes sense? Well, it depends on your budget. It depends on your music. I think with less than 4 speakers or less than 4 dedicated channels, it doesn't make sense, because you cannot get around the people. And if you have 6 or more, you can get the more channels you have on the horizontal plane, the better, because the better is your directional resolution. So you also have to think a little bit different when it comes to making a live concert on multi-channel setup, because you need to understand that most people are not in the sweet spot. So you need to somehow play a little bit with the rear channels and the side channels, so that the experience is as good as it gets, as you can. And well, if you have really big audiences which are spread out a lot, and where the speed of sound actually matters because of the delays produced by the distance of different speakers, you might even think about arrays, so to feed to group the listeners into different cells if you have a real big setup. I mean, it's already done with stereo today, you know. So when you go to a big concert, you have arrays of speakers which are like this positioned through the audience, so that each group of the audience gets a dedicated signal, which is differently delayed, so that everything gets as homogeneous as possible. And well, the more channel or the more tracks you use, the more channels you use, the bigger becomes the challenge to get these things right. But I think it's possible. And on the other hand, especially in a concert, you have a dedicated front. So people where the artist is, you look where the artist is. So most things will happen in the front. But of course, you can use that as an effect, as a surrounding thing. And for reverb, I think it will always work if you put some reverb in the surround channels, which are on the back and on the side of the people, because then they can get some involvement without actually having something which disturbs in terms of delay time. So yeah,
Yeah, that's true, and of course these are the channels. That's correct. But I think a small immersive concert would be the thing, because when you're, I don't know, on a festival or in big arenas or so, you usually have too much immersion of what's happening sound wise, and all the engineers have a hard time to get a grip on that, and to control that, and to deal with it. I think smaller venues could benefit from this, because usually they are treated acoustically much better. And if you have a, I don't know, small club or a cafe or a bar where you would play for, I don't know, 40, 50, 60 people, and you would put in 2 or 4 more speakers and spread them around the room, that could really add a special experience. And of course, the person who's sitting directly to, I don't know, the further left speaker, and is getting all the reverb and not much vocals from the front, that would be a problem as well. But I think it's a question of season it to taste, and
yeah.
maybe raise the additional speakers a little bit, that it's not not tops, but a little bit from the top. You can't see my arms, so like this, above the head, so that nobody's sitting.
In the shadow of others. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
And that might be pretty interesting. So more channels is mostly venue specific, but what is interesting, the perspective of Atmos is the object orientedness. Wavefield synthesis requires many people to. Yeah, that's true. Of course, if you're moving stuff, and you're focused on objects and their correct position in the room, of course, you need the more speakers you have, and the more accurate they are set up, the better, of course. When you do use a smaller system in a very in a non-treated room, and you don't have the possibility to do exact measures and stuff like that, you would have to, how would you call it, brush with a very broad strokes, but still you can, add some sonic flavor to performance, compared to what a stereo thing would do otherwise. And yeah, there was something I have here. Just had the experience with the Budapest Orchestra on remote streaming to the studio in Mainz with Dolby Atmos. Yeah, that's an interesting thing as well. A lot of orchestras are doing live streamings now, and it started years ago with the cinemas, and that was pretty interesting as well. But it hasn't happened so much for concerts from the pop rock and jazz realm of things yet. Yeah, and there have been several questions again, I must say, for VST2, and that's well, just Thomas, correct me. This is entirely off the table because
VST, yeah, please don't ask anymore for VST2. VST2 is a thing of the past, like Windows XP. It's completely off the table. There will not be ever any VST2. Steinberg canceled it years ago, and there will be not a VST2, period. So if you have something which can only do VST2, sorry, nothing we can do about.
Yeah, and I mean, you should use the latest computers and stuff like this as well, because everything is going forward there, and the processing is required, and the new formats as well, and that's just the way to go. Yeah, definitely, for sure. So let's add some of the other things. There have been the mentioning of Eclipsa. Let me see what the exact question was. It was pretty much at the beginning. There have been some things happening during the last days and weeks. So, Thomas, you followed that a little bit. And, well, it's, as I understood it, it's still work in progress. What have you to say about that?
Yeah, well, there are several iterations of Eclipsa. The first iteration already has reached the market. It's currently YouTube only. I talked with the Eclipsa guys, and they told me that it will, of course, be expanded over the coming years to other systems, to other software. It will eventually get into Android and Chrome and things. It will become more accessible to people. And they're also looking into not only having it in YouTube, but also in other platforms. But currently it's YouTube only. And technically it's, I would say it's still in its infancy, because there are so many, what can I say? So many hurdles to take, which Dolby Atmos has already taken, like accessibility for the user. And the use, I mean, Dolby Atmos started out with the cinema. So they started in the cinema world, and then 10 years later they dropped into the music market. And well, what Eclipsa is doing, they are starting with YouTube. I still have to see a concept of how to get it across to the YouTubers. Because currently producing Eclipsa is not an easy project. It's not an easy process. I mean, engineers, of course, audio engineers can do that. It's also not witchcraft, but it's still something which is, to my taste, a little too much for everyday YouTubers who are not tech savvy. So who actually are used to punching a camera somewhere, maybe putting a microphone or two microphones, and then recording, mixing it together and out to the internet. And now they have to think about multi-channel and panning and all this other fancy stuff. Yeah, it's possible, but let's see where it goes. I would say I currently am in the position to say let's see where it goes. Let's see if it gets adopted, if there are real use cases for that. Now you might say, yeah, okay, this is like a chicken and the egg thing. Like if there are not cool tools and which are easy to use, then there will not be the content. And then you can say if there's no content, nobody will interested in developing tools or using tools. Well, that's the problem with all new technology, and it was the same thing with Atmos and with anything else, basically. So we have to see. I'm still waiting to see some convincing content and accessible content on YouTube. When I see some accessible content on YouTube, where I can just put on my headphones and open YouTube and listen to a video, then I'm convinced that it can easily reach the users, and then we will talk again about Eclipsa.
Oops, I was on mute, sorry. Yeah, that's true. And the question is here also, what's on the beaten track, as we say. Some shops and bars and things like this work in cities because they're on the beaten track, and some don't work because they're off the beaten track, because people just don't go there. They don't pass by, and it's the same thing with YouTube. I mean, Spotify is right on the beaten track. I mean, just people go to Spotify for music. And the second one, I think, would be Apple, especially when you're on an Apple device as well. And on YouTube, I don't know, since day one, since YouTube started to offer the subscription model where you can pay for you are not bombarded with ads, and B, you have access to movies and stuff like that. But I'm always wondering how many people would do that, because for years I get this offer, 1 month for free, this and that, and I just ignore it because it's YouTube is not the place for me to watch movies or to listen to music. It's more like podcasts and talking and stuff like that. That might be also an interesting question to you guys. Would you copy that, or is there anyone on YouTube who's using that for streaming movies and having it connected to the big screen? Because YouTube is the phone and maybe the computer every once in a while. And for long content, the podcasts, I think the phone is the thing. And so we could discuss the need for immersive audio. So if they are not approaching other platforms or trying to do something there, I think it's still quite a process.
A niche topic, yeah. I mean, if you think there's already some immersive possibilities on YouTube, and this 360 videos where you can actually pull around the video and look to different sides, like 360 video, and it also contains I think first order ambisonic sound, which turns with the music, or with the scene. You can turn around, and this exists already for a few years, but I haven't seen any relevant content with that. So that didn't really catch on. So I say, let's see what will happen with Eclipsa, because it must be really easy. And as someone here said, Toby said that he tried to get it running on different devices. Yeah, the problem with Eclipsa is it's currently only available on very few devices. I think only the newest line of Samsung cell phones, plus some DV sets which have it incorporated. So it's a very limited line. And until they bring it out to the YouTube, and until you can just open a browser, punch in YouTube, connect the headphone, and you have the experience, until it gets that easy, it's simply a niche topic. So when they get that right, this channel, so that everyone really can easily enjoy this content, until that time there's no mass market for it. So
yeah, but Toby, I just read it here. He's watching YouTube on Apple TV and on a large TV every day, and he wants immersive.
Yeah.
So
get going.
Make yourself heard, Toby.
Yeah.
Shout out your demand, and that's how things will change.
But
most
if you're
commonly.
really one last thing about Eclipsa, if you're really interested in producing Eclipsa, there's a viable workflow which you can actually go. Eclipsa in its current installation and also in the next installation is basically a container format where you can embed several multi-channels audio streams, beds, if you will. So what you can do is you can actually produce in Atmos and then export to different multi-channel formats. For example, you can embed a 714 stream for the entire mix minus voices, and then you can export the voices as an extra, let's say, stereo track or whatever you want, and add it as another track to the Eclipsa. So basically, you do everything in Atmos. You export these different tracks. This is very easy to do with a composer. You have everything mixed together, and then you can, by muting and soloing or by grouping, by applying groups to different channels of your mix, you can then export selectively first one group and then you export the other group, and then you have two down mixes or re-renders, if you will, and you can then just use the Eclipsa tools to put it into an Eclipsa file. And so this is currently a viable workflow, and well, then you just have to get it to the people.
Sorry, I was again on mute. Thank you. So, yeah, put your headphones on. Yeah. And ChatGPT gives a nice script that will convert an Atmos mix to Eclipsa. But I have no way to listen to the result. Well, yeah. Currently it's Samsung, right? And
Yeah, Samsung and some
Samsung and
TV
Android.
sets.
No? Okay.
Yeah, Android not yet completely. I mean, they told me that they want to bring it into Android as a standard so that any Android device can play it back, but that's not yet there.
Well, understood. And yeah, so let me just have a check here how much we have covered and what's still open. So I would say if you guys have some questions, and there just came a homeless balloon into this chat group, so it says hi as well. So if you have questions, burning questions regarding some usability things, conceptual things, and stuff like that, please let us know. We're here to answer your questions, especially the maker himself, Mr. Thomas Fiedler, is here to Jesus.
There, yeah.
There, he's here to answer your questions. So that's your chance to talk to the maker directly. That's so. Can we use the Dolby Atmos?
Meet the maker.
Meet the maker. Yeah. Can you use the Dolby Atmos logo on your album art? Actually, I think so. Yes, Thomas.
Well, I don't know if you can. Dolby is certainly restrictive about their logos, especially when they are used in a commercial way. So ask Dolby for this special purpose. I mean, I know there are a lot of YouTube podcasts and videos which just use the logo somewhere because they are talking about Dolby Atmos, and I didn't see that they have been taken down. So I think that's okay. But when it comes to albums, I don't know. I mean, in what way would you need it? Because there's only streaming and Blu-ray, and Blu-ray is such a niche topic. I mean, if you put Blu-ray, then I think you can even do it because you will need to say, hey, this Blu-ray is coming from Dolby Atmos encoded in True HD, blah, blah, blah. And the streamers, they will always say, hey, this stream is Dolby Atmos or the stream is not Dolby Atmos. So I don't know where you want to put that.
I think the question is to put it into the album art that even when you open a track, select a track in Spotify, Apple Music, all the other streamers, that there's a little thing that says, "Oh, it's available in Dolby Atmos." If you have not always your Dolby Atmos automatically on, and you have your headphones, and maybe you want to check out the Dolby Atmos version, and you, what's the setting in Apple Music? You have to switch it to always on and not to automatic, for example, and that would be a hint to the listeners, of course. And in the old days, you had always, in Germany, GEMA and CD audio, the
Yeah.
logos on there. So basically, why not? I mean, in this case, Dolby should be happy about that, because that would be more. Yeah.
Ask
We don't
them.
know.
Yeah.
Ask and Google, most probably, or as the gentleman suggested before, ask ChatGPT. They know no, they know amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Our
Okay.
very dear additional assistant, or maybe what's the other guy?
Our third half of the brain.
Yeah, and what's the other guy? 1 second. DeepSeek, right?
DeepSeek. Oh, DeepSeek. Yeah.
From the other side of the pond.
Yeah.
On the other side from the other pond, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's another question. Do you have any experience? AI is asking, do you have any experience with head tracking for headphones for improving those cues, reflections, etc.? You've mentioned I have tested a camera solution and it was quite laggy. Yeah, camera is no real option because of the latency. Usually you can say a latency less than 20 milliseconds is required for having a more or less realistic head tracking experience, and as far as I know, there are two solutions which are quite good. The one is obviously that from Apple. It's quite fast, responsive. And the other thing is the Superware head tracker. You can find it in the internet if you look in Google for Superware. This is kind of a strip which you can attach to the headphone. I mean, I don't know, might not be able to see it, but I have it. I put it inside the frame of the headphone. I have the Superware. It's the disadvantage is you have to connect here. It is a connection. You have to connect a cable, but well, the cable is a little bit clunky, but it gives you the opportunity to be real fast because Bluetooth also adds an additional latency. So, and in upcoming releases, we will support both Apple and Superware, which are both very fast and responsive solutions. And yeah, those are the two options you currently have when it comes to fast. Of course, there are also some head trackers which use OSC as a connection protocol. That depends on the implementation, and you also need to check your entire network traffic because OSC is a network implementation, so it uses network devices. It can be good, it can also be bad, and it can be varying in terms of speed. But with Apple and with Superware, we use the direct connection to Superware instead of going via OSC. So in both cases, we get highly responsive head tracking, and this is something we actually aim for because head tracking only makes sense if it is responsive. If you get the feeling, okay, I turn the head, and the scene reacts that fast, so that you actually have the feeling, oh, I am in the scene, I am in the virtual room, and not that you turn your head and then the thing corrects itself and you can hear the correction.
Yeah, I just replied to English Bob, who says he always releases binaural tracks to Spotify. What do you think about this? And I just said, well, I did that onto Apple Music as well. And I labeled them as 3D headphone mixes so that the listener can realize and decide, oh, it's different, because I found that binaural mixes, of course, work nice on headphones, but they don't work on speaker setups. And when DJs are playing, I just had that this weekend. DJs came out with 2 iPads, and they were playing stuff from the streamers. Then you run into some issues, I guess. And but English Bob says, I think mine are great. Well, let us know what you mean about that. Of course, your music is great, I'm sure, and your mixes as well. But do you think your binaural files would work on stereo as well?
And speakers.
Yeah, on stereo speakers as well, or even mono speakers. The boom boxes as well. That might be interesting for us. No, it is interesting to hear.
Yeah.
So here's the question: the difference between vanilla
and Apple implementations of Atmos over headphones. Yeah, that is the questions we hear a lot. Dolby's own binauralization algorithm is available in Tidal and Amazon, and they basically binauralize what they get. So if they get a bed, they binauralize a bed. If they get objects, they binauralize objects directly. Apple does, as they do often, their own things. They basically take a 714 down mix of the Atmos mix and binauralize that. And that is the technical reason why they ignore the binaural settings, which you set so meticulously in the Dolby Atmos production process, because they cannot have this information when they use a 714 speaker down mix. So what they do is they simulate a virtual stereo environment where you have a 714 speaker setup and listen to the 714 version of your Atmos mix. You need to listen to both if you want to get best results on both. And yeah, I mean, there's a plugin out there from Audio Movers, I think, which is able to simulate it. If you're on Mac, well, currently you can only listen to Apple Spatial Audio on Mac, and if you are a Logic user, you can also use Logic's own binauralization plugin. You can also do it, for example, with the Composer. If you're using the Composer in Logic, you can basically create a Logic session or Logic project and then select as a 3D audio format, not Dolby Atmos, because you can select Dolby Atmos. No, you don't select Dolby Atmos. You select 714. And then you use the 714 master track, put the Dolby Atmos composer there, set it to 714, and put the Apple I don't know the name right now, but there's some Apple listening plugin which is available in Logic. This you can just hook up, which receives the 714 output of the composer and turns it into Apple Spatial Audio. And well, we are currently working on a solution to bring Apple Spatial Audio also to Windows. So, of course, not the original Apple Spatial Audio with head tracking and all that stuff, but some possibility to listen to it also on Windows and also in older Macs which don't have that. So stay tuned, there will be a solution soon.
How soon?
Well, very soon.
Yeah, you're working on this. I heard about that.
Yeah.
Looking forward to this, indeed. And yeah, so sounds good in car and Sonos stereo. English Bob says the binaural stuff. Well, that's amazing. And then, do you have some special tricks that you go? How would you say easy on the immersive side of things, and you go easy on the binaural settings, or how do you get this going? Because I found it works on speakers. I had once a little setup just to test it to joinable Bluetooth boxes by Teufel, and I put them just here, very close to my ears and at a very low volume. And then I realized, okay, that works on speakers as well, but only to a certain point at a certain level. If you move them further apart, the sensation goes away. So that would be really interesting.
Yeah, well, you basically simulated headphones, open headphones with speakers. So that's basically also a headphone experience, because stereo speakers, you don't put them here, you put them in front, where actually some phantom source effect can happen, because the signal of each speaker is received by both ears, and this is what you do not want when you listen to binaural content. For binaural content to work, you need a strict left channel, left ear, right channel, right ear.
Yeah, so please, English Bob, do you have a special source you're applying? That would be interesting. Luca, any tricks for getting the loudness right when mixing together mono bed channels? Made some beds out of few instruments out of the stereo track. The problem is getting a new loudness from combis. Please explain that a little bit. I don't get it. Thomas, do you understand that?
Not really. I mean, the general advice for getting loudness right is mixing at a lower volume than you would expect. You can always check the loudness when you turn on the loudness measurement in the composer, for example, switch to 5.1. And then let it run through so that you can see that you don't go beyond minus 18, and that the true peak is not hitting too hard. And my recommendation is to mix actually at minus 24, not minus 18, but minus 24, because then you are a good amount of dBs away from the limiter or compressor kicking in, which is built into the Dolby Atmos renderer algorithm. So they have something for basically for protection, that things don't get played back too loud. They are involved into that. So when you are in your mixing process, mix on a lower volume, do everything as it is good, and then in the end you check your loudness, and you can adjust the loudness in the composer very easily by cranking up the master to the desired volume. And in that way, you make sure that you are not mixing into a compressor, which then falls away when you correct the loudness. When you see, okay, you are mixing too loud, and you need to correct the loudness to a lower volume, and things start sounding differently than you expected during mixing.
Actually, that's something really, really interesting, because like 2 hours ago, when we were going through, over some phenomena in a different application, with one of my very, very loud mixes, because I just had to put it together quickly, and I didn't care about, tuning in the master section, the volume properly. So I was at, I don't know, minus 11 LUFS or so, which is
Like
murderous for Dolby. And in one of the half sentences, you mentioned something like this, mixing into the built-in Dolby renderer compressor, basically.
Yeah.
And I wasn't aware of that at all. And I just wanted to address that, but we had so many other topics, and the live stream was coming, so I forgot that. But good that you mentioned this. So you're saying that, like, if you have I don't know, when you're mixing, you have some compressor on the mix bus, this invisible one. So the Dolby machinery is basically behaving a little bit like a tape machine. So when you get really hot, it's
well, I don't know how it internally works and how the settings are. It's basically a limiter which makes that nothing goes beyond the 0 dB full scale. And this is the reason why you shouldn't go higher than minus 18 LUFS overall over the whole time of a song, and why there, especially also why there is the -1 dB true peak. You shouldn't go beyond -1 true peak, because when you go because minus one true peak, then this limiter kicks in. And usually, if you do not have a good master bus compression going on, if you have a mix without any master bus compression and you mix so loud that you are already reaching -12 lufs, then for sure you have a lot of true peaks well beyond -1 dB going on, and they will always trigger this compressor, which then works over the entire signal, not just like cutting off these peaks, but they compress the entire signal, and that changes the sound. Um, and when you then have to later, when you made your mix at -12 lufs, and then you say, okay, I have to lower it by 6 dB to hit the -18 requirement, then oops, your mix sounds different, because now the compressor, the internal compressor or limiter of the Dolby Atmos algorithm doesn't kick in anymore. So you say, oh, the thing falls apart. I had it like, it was like already feeling glued together, and now it's not glued together anymore, because this supposed master compression is falling away. So that's why I recommend mix at -24. You can always crank up the volume of your speakers to monitor, but mix internally at -24, that you have really some safe headroom. And then you are sure to not hit an unwanted compression effect inside the Dolby Atmos algorithm, but that your mix sounds as it should. And then in the last step, through the different steps, you bring it up to where you need to have it for distribution.
That's really, really interesting. I mean, I wasn't aware of that at all, and I think this might be some really useful information to everybody out there. So practically, if I so the control, the master control, and the Dolby Atmos composer is sitting before it goes into the.
Yeah, the master gain of the mix is sitting before it goes into the renderer.
So if I'm there and I check in between, and I'm around 20 or -22 or something like that, I should be pretty safe. So if
I mean, the loudness measuring is also showing you true peak. So if you have a very dynamic material where you have beats and hits which actually go beyond, you might want to check your transients also. But usually, if you're at -22, -24, or something like this, you very rarely actually get to the -1 dB true peak where you trigger this compression.
Interesting. So yeah, well, it might be cool if one could just set, this is a default that the entire world, whenever you approach a new mix, that you see your stuff at a certain level, and I don't know, that you just say, well, the 0 dB from the stereo world then becomes the -22 dB for the Atmos world. And
no, it's actually the -1 dB true peak for the Atmos world, because that actually triggers the compression. I don't know if they also have something loudness based, but I doubt. I think it is really about it's really a limiter which kicks in at -1, and to avoid the limiter kicking in, they say -1 dB true peak shouldn't be crossed, and it's just there for safety. And well, if you are at -1 dB true peak, and well, the -18 also serves another purpose. It serves the purpose to not have a loudness war going on, because if you would only have this -1 dB true peak, you could easily get again a loudness war. And to get things a little more standardized, so that music which only can live in a more dynamic way than being cranked into the latest loudness war CD fashion, then yeah, you need to have something, some standard where you have this headroom or this dynamic range which you actually want to have. And yeah, I mean, you don't want that classical music completely sucks when listened after a metal track. Although this is a very rare occasion, but it should be somehow compatible somehow. So that way, also a lot of pop and rock music suffers from the loudness more because it's so cranked, so crunched together, so highly saturated. I mean, since 20 years, you can do only mastering when you saturate the mix, when you don't let transients as they are and all this stuff. So, um, yeah, I mean, in the end, the music suffers. We are so used to that shitty sound, but if you have a good listening environment, you can actually hear the difference when you play, let's say, modern music compared with music from the 80s at the same perceived loudness. Then you will see, oh, these things sound very different than when I just hit play on a CD one after the other, where they are normalized, but the loudness is very different.
Yeah, interesting, really, really interesting. And yeah, I will give that a try tomorrow, and change my approach there for sure. Here's Luca Rella, getting the levels and dynamics sorted out for the various channels and objects, well, and groups and stuff like that. So I would say, please, Thomas, pay attention if I say something stupid. I would say go for Gravitas and the Dolby Atmos composer. Am I correct? Because that's
I still don't understand what she's really trying to accomplish, because she says that she's doing to get a 714 for Apple. Well, actually, you don't get a 714 for Apple. You get an Atmos mix for Apple Music, which can consist of a 714 bed or object bed. But sorry, it's not 714 what you deliver. You deliver basically an Atmos mix or a stereo mix, as far as I know. And of course, you can just take a 714 bed, if you will, and embed it into an Atmos mix and deliver that without thinking about objects and all the other fancy stuff. But in the end, you deliver an Atmos mix, and the Atmos process has a standardized loudness measurement. You measure your Atmos mix at 5.1, and then you see that you meet the requirements, and everything what comes before is according to taste. Just mix to taste, and then in the last step, when you do your Atmos mix, when you do your loudness evaluation, then you do it as the standard says. You measure at 5.1 your Dolby Atmos mix and the entire song, by the way. And when in the end the requirements are met, then just go for it and publish.
all right. So, and then here's another question regarding the Virtuoso plugin.
Oh yeah, that was still open. Yeah, yeah.
At the 9.1.6, have you seen that? The last one?
Yeah. Yeah, it depends. Well, you can select in Virtuoso. You can binauralize up to 916. There are different ways to connect. If you have a DAW which is capable of multi-channel, like Reaper or Pro Tools or something like that, you can hook it up as a plugin directly after the composer. So you set the composer to 714, 916, or whatever you want to listen to, and then the Virtuoso plugin after, and then you listen to it through the binauralization created by the Virtuoso plugin. Or if you have, let's say, Ableton Live or some other stereo-only DAW, then you can use the external output feature of the Dolby Atmos composer. You select 916, you select the external output, and you send basically with this feature you can send your audio to to a sound device which is installed on your system. It can be a real sound card, and it can also be a virtual audio device like Black Holes, for example. And you can basically do like this, that you send it from the Dolby Atmos composer to Black Hole, and from Black Hole, you send it to the Virtuoso application. Virtuoso also comes as an application. You can select Black Hole as the input, and then listen to your binauralization from the Virtuoso app. This is the other route to go. We are aiming to get something in place to make things easier with that regard. But currently, that's the way to go, where you can accomplish this on both Windows and Mac.
Thank you for this. And here's Luca.
Oh, wait. There's one more thing which makes it actually easier, where you don't need the external output. You can maybe I share my screen. Can you allow me share the the
Sure,
sharing?
sure.
And I can just quickly show it.
That should work. Sharing activated.
Yeah, okay. Let me just get to where's Ableton Live. Here's Ableton Live. Let me prepare that quickly. So okay, share desktop 3. Share. Okay, now what you can see here is Ableton Live. And it's just an empty Ableton Live session. There's nothing in it. But in a typical Dolby Atmos composer workflow, you go to the main channel, to the master channel, and you hook up the Dolby Atmos composer. This is this one here. And then you do your Atmos mixing. But in the case you want to use the Virtuoso plugin, you don't put the Atmos composer in, but you take a chainer plugin. For example, there is DDMF Meta plugin. This is such a chainer. And then when you open it, it looks like this. And here you can basically go wild within. So you can put the composer in as first thing. So you put the composer here. You connect just the composer to the audio input. And then you have to configure the I/O. So we have now multiple buses which we can actually delete it. How can we delete it? Well, actually, you take bus 1 and set it to third order ambisonics. That gives you 16. Okay, you can just unenable them. All these buses which the composer offers. You only have now we have only bus 1 with third order ambisonics, which gives you 16 channels which you need for 916 monitoring. Now you have the 16 outputs here from the composer, and the next thing would be Virtuoso. This is Virtuoso. This also has to be configured. So the input configuration also needs to be third order ambisonics. And then I'm not so. Yeah, with control and clicking, you can easily connect this, and then you connect it to the output. So that gives you the overall Meta plugin itself is stereo in and stereo out. So like that, what you can basically load on Ableton Live or any other DAW, which can only do stereo. And inside this Meta plugin, you have the Dolby Atmos composer and the Virtuoso connected like this. And in this way, you can do it inside any DAW, which is not able to do that. So you can listen to 916. Now, if I open the Dolby Atmos composer, sorry, it always opens on another screen. You just need to select 916 as the output format. And if you now on any other track insert, let's select another track and insert a Dolby Atmos beam. Here we go. And although it's inside this chainer plugin, they still recognize each other, and you immediately have the beam here. So that way you can listen to Virtuoso in any DAW. That's the easiest way to go. You don't need any external audio devices and so forth. And I think any capability also regarding head tracking, which Virtuoso offers, should also be available inside this chainer plugin. So that's the way to go. You're still
Wow.
muted.
That's a great tip, I guess, for you guys out there. Incredible. Yeah, amazing. So, we're in 1.5 hours, 90 minutes. Maybe we could and should wrap it up.
Mhm.
And there's some more. There's a process with CV to automate all monos and one. Yeah, the automating and CVs, that's a completely different beast, I guess, if we get in there, depending on where you automate, in the DAW or the beam and things like this. Am I correct, Thomas?
Yeah, CV, I think this is a control voltage. This is something which only few DAWs, for example, Reason has something like this, and maybe, I don't know, Ableton has something with Max devices or something where you can actually do some fancy stuff like this. But yeah, that's a special thing.
Cool. Okay. Let's leave it at this for this moment. And thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys for sharing your workflows and your setups. So it's great to give us, especially Thomas, an idea what the situation is out there and the challenges. And yeah, thanks for all the questions, because you really pushed some really cool stuff out of us here regarding the compression in the Dolby system, and regarding these tips now, with the routing and the channel plugins and stuff like this. This is awesome, and I hope everybody got something out of this today, because that's what we are here for, trying to give you some added value when you're working with the Fiedler audio tools and dealing with immersive audio and Dolby Atmos. And yeah, let's wrap it up. And working on new stuff, of course, Thomas. And I don't know yet. I think we will make one more live stream, I guess, in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And after that, we might be doing a little bit pause for the summer. But we're not sure yet. We have to discuss that, and of course we will let you know. So follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and
YouTube
and stuff like that. So you will be informed about what's going on and what's coming from Fiedler Audio. So have a great week, guys. Have a great day. Have a great evening wherever you are listening, and or maybe a good morning. And yeah, take care. Thank you, Thomas, so much.
Thank you.
We will drop the mic. Bye-bye.